Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here on Gould Street. I'm a boy from Etobicoke and had my first experiences with heritage buildings with Montgomery's Inn, which stands as a signature heritage building in the city of Toronto. Today I'm here to release a 5-point plan to offer further protection to heritage buildings and also greater consideration of natural heritage features like Toronto's ravines. If I'm elected mayor, I will work to build greater partnerships that reach across the city and ask city officials, including those focused on heritage, to be more focused on areas outside of the downtown core. Secondly, I will work to expand the tools that can offer protection for heritage features in neighborhoods beyond the heritage districts into residential development guidelines, which can offer appropriate protection to heritage properties which are found all across the city of Toronto. We have very distinct heritage shopping districts in the city of Toronto, and I want to work with them, the business improvement areas, and the city's capacity to bring forward tax policies which will offer incentives for heritage storefronts to be maintained, not just for today but for the benefit of people in the future. The building behind us on Gould Street at Yonge is an example of a beautiful heritage building which has suffered from serious collapse. We want to bring forward policies that will fight the neglect that building owners sometimes have with respect to heritage properties, bringing together fire, building officials, and bylaw enforcement to create real tools that will fight neglect, including an early warning system so that we can take steps before we lose these beautiful heritage buildings. And lastly, I want to work to broaden the definitions of heritage to include focus on natural heritage features. It's often said that Toronto is a city of ravines, as an example, and I think it's incredibly important that we do more to preserve and to protect our ravines into the future. One example of this is the call that we've made and that I repeat today to turn the Rouge Park into a national park so that it can be protected and preserved for future generations of Torontonians to benefit. Toronto is, after all, a relatively young city, founded in 1834, but we know that Montgomery's Inn, as an example, traces its roots and was a factor in the rebellions of 1837. All across the breadth of Toronto are great examples of heritage properties, and yet there is more work that we can do to preserve them to ensure that our history is a living one, complete with buildings, not one that's just reduced to archival materials and to virtual reality. It's really, really important that a city show that it's in it for the long term, that we have a vision for hundreds of years from now, that people will have a chance to look back at some of those buildings that were built and envisioned 150 years ago or so. We want to preserve them for future generations. The last thing that I'll say is that I had the opportunity, like I said, to grow up in Etobicoke and to learn first and foremost from Montgomery's Inn. But later in life, as a representative for the riding of Toronto Centre Rosedale, I lived in a house built in 1876. I worked in the Ontario legislature, and I had the privilege of representing the Old Town, the area down around St. Lawrence, where we'll be tonight debating the matters of heritage. This is an example of what's important to Toronto, and I want to bring citizens and people that are involved in the active fight to preserve and to build up the quality of their neighborhoods into the mix and into the discussion. And you'll see this theme repeated in the work that I bring forward with respect to the future models for planning out our city. There are